have served in public office now for a number of years and often think about the issue of my work representing the interests of people in the district that I represent. And like Senator Bach, have spent a lot of time all over the state of Minnesota. I have lived in an urban place, in a suburban place in New Hope when I was in grade school. I was born on a farm, lived in a small town. I have had that experience as you described in your early testimony. I think one of the challenges for us as people elected to represent the interests of people is that we remain open to the various perspectives. You know, I represent a district in St. Paul. There's certainly people who don't vote for me. They are Republican. They will tell me they are. When I knock their door, they will tell me they're not going to vote for me. But it is important for me to remain open and open-minded and in conversation. There are times when I have gotten emails from people who say, I'm disappointed that I don't have a representative voice at the Capitol. And I always write back to say, I am elected to represent everybody in the district where I live. And it is the case. It is a discipline, it is a necessary practice that we keep our ears trained. And as I am hearing the testimony of the both of you, like there are things that are making my heart pound because I pretty strongly disagree, especially about the parsing of values depending on where you live. Because as I have experienced Minnesotans across the state, we have shared values and different values, and they're not necessarily geographically bound. But somehow we have to find our way together in the governing, right? Which is why this question of redistricting is so important, right? Because we want to make sure, at least for me, that these districts are drawn in such a way that they reflect where people live. That we are doing our very best to draw optimal maps that have the optimal number of people in them, that we don't deviate in pursuit of some form of representation or a history of our representation, that we are drawing the maps for where people are today, so that we are doing our best job going forward in the next decade based on where people live, doing that hard job of representing everybody's interests in these districts, because if each of us are doing that, then we have the best shot, right, of governing for the people of Minnesota, taking their voices and their consideration into mind. And we're living in a time where we're real polarized from one another, and that is the case, and it's making it harder for us to govern for sure. But I think those of us who have an interest in this, and I'm really glad you're here, because you're bringing your voices and your interest to this, because it's really important about governing and about our democracy, small d democracy. If we push ourselves in the direction of, regardless of our differences, we've got to find our path forward, we're going to do a better job together. So some of the testimony I'm hearing is testimony that I feel like is pushing us apart, like we can't share values because we live in different parts of the state. I'm the lead on the Ag Committee, just FYI, and I live in St. Paul. You should come see a farm in the district I represent sometime. I'd love that. It is a real challenge for us, and the testimony is lifting that challenge up for me. And so I just want to be on the record to say representation is important. Where we live is important. And getting these maps right so they fairly represent where people live is really important. And I thank you very much for coming and bringing your perspective. And I hear things that we agree about and some things that we don't, but that's okay, because that's the way we do our work in a representative democracy. Thanks.